Here's your story. You wake up one morning to find an envelope from the VA in your mailbox. Your heart sinks as you read the words, Rating Reduction Notice. After years of receiving disability compensation that helped you pay bills and support your family, the VA now wants to cut your benefits. But wait, before you panic, you need to understand something crucial that could save your rating. The VA has specific rules that might protect you from this reduction, and most veterans have no idea these safeguards even exist. Today we're diving deep into the VA's protection rules that could be the difference between keeping your hard-earned benefits and losing thousands of dollars in compensation. I'm going to break down the 5, 10, and 20-year rules, plus some lesser-known protections that even seasoned veterans miss. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand and how to fight back if the VA tries to wrongfully reduce your rating. Really quick, if you're a veteran, a family member, or someone navigating the VA system, you're in the right place, and we want to take this time to show our appreciation and thank you for your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions. Your engagement helps spread awareness so more veterans and their families get the benefits they have earned and deserve. Thank you. Now, let me start with something that might surprise you. Most VA disability conditions are considered what they call dynamic. This means the VA believes your condition can change over time, either getting better or worse. Now, this makes sense when you think about it. Some conditions do improve with treatment or surgery. Cancer might go into remission, a joint replacement might restore function. But here's where it gets tricky. The VA uses this dynamic nature as justification to potentially reduce your rating if they think you've improved. But here's what they don't want you to know. The law recognizes that long-term disability ratings become part of your reliable compensation picture. You plan your life around this income. You make financial decisions based on these benefits. That's why Congress built in specific protections that limit when and how the VA can mess with your rating. The first protection we need to talk about is the 5-year rule, also known as stabilized ratings. This is huge, and most veterans don't fully understand how powerful this protection actually is. Once you've had the same rating for 5 years or more, your rating becomes stabilized. This means the VA faces a much higher burden if they want to reduce it. For a stabilized rating, the VA cannot just reduce your rating based on a single exam or because they feel like it. They have to prove sustained improvement under normal life and work conditions. Not just improvement during one doctor's visit, but sustained improvement over time. They also have to be reasonably certain that your condition will continue to improve, and they must cite specific evidence in your claims file showing this sustained improvement. This protection comes from an important court case called Brown versus Brown from the 1990s. What this means practically is that if you've had a 50% rating for 5 years and you go to one compensation and pension exam where the examiner says you seem better, the VA cannot automatically reduce your rating. They need to show a pattern of sustained improvement documented over time. Think about this scenario. You have PTSD rated at 70% for 6 years. You're having a particularly good day when you go to your exam. You're showered, you made it on time, you're able to answer questions clearly. The examiner might note that you appear to be functioning well. But under the 5-year rule, this single snapshot cannot justify a reduction. The VA would need evidence showing consistent improvement in your daily functioning, work performance, and overall mental health over an extended period. Also, if you have realized your claim might be missing key medical evidence, don't stress, there's help for that. ReMedical connects veterans with licensed medical professionals who provide the detailed evaluations VA raters actually look for. You can find the link in the description box below and pinned within the comments. Now, let's move to the 10-year rule, which provides a different but equally important protection. If you've been service-connected for a particular condition for 10 years or more, the VA cannot sever your service connection for that condition. Period. They cannot take away your service-connected status unless there's evidence of fraud. This protection is absolute in most cases. It doesn't matter if new medical research emerges questioning the link between your military service and your condition. It doesn't matter if a new examiner disagrees with the original decision. After 10 years, your service connection is protected. The only exception is fraud, which means you lied about your condition or provided fake evidence to get service connection. But honestly, actual fraud cases are extremely rare in practice. Let me give you an example. Say you were granted service connection for hearing loss in 2010 based on noise exposure during your military service. It's now 2025, so you've had service connection for 15 years. Even if the VA finds a new examiner who claims your hearing loss isn't related to military service, they cannot sever your service connection. The 10-year rule protects you. The 20-year rule takes protection even further and deals with what's called continuous ratings. If you've maintained a rating at a certain level for 20 years or more, the VA cannot reduce your rating below its lowest point during those 20 years, again except for fraud. Here's how this works. Let's say you were initially granted a 50% rating for a back condition in 2000. Over the next 20 years, your rating fluctuated between 50 and 70% as your condition worsened and improved. After 2020, once you've had the rating for 20 years, the VA cannot reduce it below that original 50% level, even if they believe your condition has improved significantly. This rule recognizes that after 2 decades, a certain level of compensation becomes integral to your financial planning and life structure. The law protects that baseline level of support, while still allowing for increases if your condition worsens. But here's something really interesting that, honestly, most veterans don't know about. There's also what's called the 55-year-old rule. Now the name is a bit confusing because it's not really about protecting your rating level, but rather about protecting you from unnecessary re-examinations. The VA has an internal procedures manual that actually instructs their staff not to schedule periodic re-examinations for veterans who have reached age 55, unless, extraordinary circumstances require it or the condition is expected to improve. The thinking is that once you reach 55, the VA really shouldn't be dragging you in for exams year after year just to check if your condition has changed. This protection applies when you're actively pursuing benefits and the VA is considering routine re-examinations. If you're over 55 and filing a new claim, you might still need an exam for that new condition, but they shouldn't be re-examining your existing stable conditions just because it's been a few years. Now, let's talk about 100% ratings, because these have their own special considerations. A regular 100% rating is still considered dynamic, meaning it's not automatically permanent. The VA can reduce it if they find material improvement under ordinary life and work conditions. However, there's a special category called permanent and total. This means you have a 100% rating and your condition has been deemed permanent, meaning it's not expected to improve. Once you achieve permanent and total status, the VA typically won't schedule further examinations. While rare, they can still attempt to reduce even permanent and total ratings if they claim to find evidence of sustained improvement, but the burden of proof is extremely high. Here's something crucial that ties all these rules together. The VA makes mistakes constantly. I see cases every day where they wrongly reduce ratings without following these protective rules. They might reduce a stabilized rating without showing sustained improvement. They might try to sever service connection for a condition you've had for 15 years. They might schedule unnecessary re-exams for veterans over 55. These aren't occasional errors. They're systematic problems that happen because many VA employees don't fully understand or properly apply these rules. This is exactly why you need to know these protections exist, and be ready to fight back when they're violated. The key thing to understand is that these rules exist because Congress recognized that disability compensation becomes part of your life foundation. You rely on these benefits for housing, health care, family support, and basic survival. The law provides these increasing levels of protection over time, specifically to prevent the VA from arbitrarily disrupting your financial stability. But protection only works if you know about it and assert it. If you receive a reduction notice and you qualify for any of these protections, you need to appeal immediately and specifically cite the relevant rule. Don't just say you disagree with the reduction. Point out that your rating has been stabilized for 8 years, so they need to show sustained improvement. Mention that you've been service-connected for 12 years, so they cannot sever the connection. And yeah, make sure to cite the specific regulation or case law that protects you. The reality is that navigating these protections often requires legal expertise because the VA's own employees frequently misapply the rules. If you're facing a reduction and believe one of these protections should apply, strongly consider working with an accredited veterans advocate who understands these complex regulations and can effectively argue your case. Remember, these benefits aren't charity. You earned them through your military service and the sacrifices that came with it. The law provides these protections specifically because Congress understood that veterans deserve stability and shouldn't have to constantly worry about losing benefits they depend on. So, know your rights, understand these timelines, and never let the VA reduce your rating without a fight when these protections should apply. Your financial security and peace of mind really do depend on it. Thanks for watching. If you're tired of feeling lost in the VA benefit system or frustrated by confusing rules and delayed claims, you're not alone. Hit subscribe and join thousands of veterans and families who are finally getting the answers, support, and confidence they deserve. We break down the complicated VA benefits process and give you the knowledge and tools to fight for the rating and care you've earned.